Good morning, everyone, and welcome to this new session of the morning briefing. Today is Friday, May 9th. It's 9 in the morning in Europe, in Italy, precisely in Naples. Let's start with a recap of yesterday, a day that started, let's say, a little quietly to reverse the big movement that occurred at the close of the day before yesterday. After that, with the opening of the American markets, some news started circulating about the agreement reached with the UK by the United States, and this, in short, gave a nice upward push to the markets, to the stock markets, with strong upward pushes, and even the cryptocurrencies reacted positively. In short, everything seemed, nicely aligned, but as I had anticipated yesterday morning, we need to look into these announcements in detail. Essentially, yesterday's announcement with the UK doesn't really shift the balance much in the sense that the United States, and I had a bit of it, I started by saying that towards the UK, the United States is the only country with which they have a positive surplus, meaning they export more than they import. So it was easy, to find an agreement. Reading through the details of the agreement, it is clear that the 10% tariffs remain, so much so that the London Stock Exchange, it lost a bit yesterday. And then also the American markets, we witnessed this decline at the close, precisely because, as we said yesterday morning, these announcements certainly move the market upwards. But then it is advisable, as I suggested yesterday morning, to sell on these spikes because they seem to me to be just superficial announcements that push the market up. But then, when looking in detail, the operators are left disappointed because the details of these agreements are still lacking, as they are, all yet to be discussed, and this obviously causes the uncertainty that leads to these pullback movements, meaning the volatility and euphoria of the announcement are exploited, and then the operators sell, roughly bringing the price back to where it was. Even if it is slightly moving upwards, we can still say that we remain essentially in a sideways trend. The levels to monitor are still all there, the ones we indicated yesterday, so now let's look at them in detail. Let's start with the Nasdaq. Having made this brief overview for yesterday, today there are no significant macroeconomic data, so it's a day where we need to navigate by sight, and especially we need to keep in mind that it's Friday, the weekend is coming, and there are meetings scheduled with China, so exercise maximum caution if you intend to have open positions over the weekend, plus utmost prudence. Having said that, let's move on to an operational point of view. At the moment, the Nasdaq, I repeat, the execution yesterday happened just above the levels we had indicated of 2280, 22,300, and it did a little bit, but then it re-entered. Now it's working below. And we'll see what the developments of the movement might be. At the moment, from an operational point of view, we are working within the levels, the BC3 levels from yesterday, and this morning in the Asian session, and we are obviously monitoring the downside RD0, SD0, in the area of 20,080 roughly, with an excursion to 20,060, which is the minimum of the range of this BC3 level, which is the opening level of yesterday. So we are monitoring 20,080, 20,060, because a break of this level could easily bring prices exactly here in the area of 19,930. Then further down, there are also the weekly level and, of course, the other levels of today's string. On the upside, for me, the level that still needs to be surpassed remains this one, because yes, in this area there was this excursion, but we can consider it noise, not actually a break. I would say that the area to monitor remains between 260 and 300 on the upside for potential bullish breakouts. And moving on, there's of course, to ES Monte, which is in a similar situation. At the moment, it is working. The level to keep an eye on for a downside is obviously this one here of SD0, also for ES Pomona, which is worth 5.6 and 68 more or less, with some excursions up to here, to SD1, which is at 5.6 and 54. These seem to me to be the two main levels, just as of course for the Nasdaq, the 20,000 area, which then corresponds more or less to this level here. On the rise, of course, we are going to monitor this one, the 5720, because even here for ES, I don't consider this a real violation. It was a fake, a false breakout, only to return within the range, basically staying inside this range. Yes, it moved a little higher, but we could draw exactly the same pattern as this day here from last Friday. That is yes, we started on the rise, but then on the Monday of the following week, you see how the market then returned basically into this limbo here. We might witness the same situation here. Maybe it already happened here. A bit of a rebound today, only to see new declines. We'll see. Basically, we have to navigate by sight. Let's obviously move on to the other two American futures. Here it is. Here it is. This is the Dow Jones. It also approached yesterday, of course, the area we had indicated, which was this one at 41.6, 41.8, to surpass, and it did. In short, the same similar discussion. We have fallen back below the previous highs, so obviously the area to surpass again is this one between 45 and 45.6 and 56.80, so between our RD0 and RD1 and RD2. On the downside, of course, we are monitoring this area here that goes from SD0 to SD1. These seem to me to be the two areas within which one can work within the range quite comfortably. And well, it seems quite clear to me here as well. We could also reach, well, even on ES, if we look, if it were to make a new move up here, maybe in this area, we could have a nice bearish head and shoulder as well. I'll just sketch it quickly. 1, 2, well, and a possible third shoulder that should be more or less here. Well, not higher, obviously, more or less at this level here. We would have a neckline more or less here. Yes, well, more or less this should be the neckline with some fluctuation. So let's monitor these things. The same goes, well, we could also draw it on the Dow Jones and the Nasdaq. Obviously, we won't stop now. We can do them in chat more calmly later. Returning to us, so the situation to monitor here at the levels we have indicated. Let's move on to the Russell. Here it is. It has returned below this area here of 2034, which in the end is the area I am interested in maintaining. At the moment it is resting above, not so much this one, but this one here I am interested in maintaining, which was 2026. You see how it is working exactly above it with this other peak here. So the holding of this area where it is currently resting, in short, I consider it fundamental. A break from here, in my opinion, could easily bring prices back to the 2000 area to retest this whole zone here. On the upside, obviously, we are going to monitor. At this moment, this area of the highs comes back into play. So now it is relevant again because it represents the highs here and the lows where a break was attempted, which then reversed. So at this moment, they become valid, and we monitor this area on the upside between RD0 and RD1. Okay, let's examine in detail the DAX, which is indeed making new all-time highs. There aren't too many ticks missing, and at the moment the market has been open for about 20 minutes and it's moving. It's currently moving well upwards. Let's see where it might stop. At this moment we are at an uncharted level, so there are no volumetric references or anything else. The indicator, in short, my algorithm, projects them based on what could be, what have been the past movements. and manages to reach these levels. At the moment on the upside, we are definitely monitoring 2600, which is a round number, and where currently trading is happening above a break of 26, 23.6, 23.6, 120 could easily bring prices to the area of 23.7, perhaps testing RD2. On the downside, obviously, a return to this area here below 23.5 could open up some retracement area, even down to the area of 23.50. Let's also look at oil, of course, which is recovering quite a bit. Yesterday, it made exactly the move we expected, breaking through the 60 area. At the moment, it's working above it, already quite strong, working above RD0, RD1. Yes, above RD1. It seems to have no, above RD0. It might have above RD0. It might have a nice push with a break of 60. The break of 60 and 50 could give a nice push that could easily bring prices back to the 62.50 area towards the area of the highs, which then represents this obstacle here. So if we manage, because once past this, I believe this could be the target. So the area of 61.80, 62. 60, yes, 61, 61, 60, 61.80 roughly could be the target area. To the downside, obviously, we are going to monitor today's HV level. The break, the return here, well, within this high might be for a downside test, but I believe this is today's HV level, and it's the one to monitor because a break of this could lead prices to test 59.50 again. Let's look at gold. Here it comes. Let's say it was a bit off. It went to about 3.2 and 80, which we also indicated yesterday morning. It has recovered. Now it's working above RD1. Let's say yes, we are in this area here. It's the one to recover. The holding of this area could easily bring the price to the 370 area. On the downside, of course, we always monitor this piece 3.280. It could also remain in this range because there is movement, there is volatility. There are about 50 points, so it's absolutely a range area that can be easily worked with. SPX, well, similarly, yesterday it closed right on the level. It had gone to make, well, an excursion above 700 in the wake of everything we said about the agreement with the UK, only to then come back down. At the moment, well, it finds itself resting here on this level, 5660, which currently acts as support and is very important, 5660, 5650, that must absolutely be maintained. The break of these two levels could easily bring prices back to the 5006 area, which is that nice level they have defended many times. On the upside, of course, we will remonitor the same area, which was this one here, so 5690, 57. We absolutely need to monitor it for potential upward attacks in the area, even up to 5750. Bitcoin surged upwards yesterday, well, reaching 104. Let's see. 104, 145, so quite a strong upward push. Well, last night, just before Nissan midnight then, well, there was a bit of a retracement, well, down to RE, down to S of 0, from which the price then rebounded. At the moment, it is working right on RD on RD0. The break of RD0 could frankly give a new upward push with a break of the, let's say that as a maximum. If we want to exclude the shadow, we are looking at 103 and 700 roughly, the real break to make, in my opinion, in order to then aim, well, even for new highs. On the downside, of course, but we are monitoring 102, though 3.70 roughly, no, because it could also remain in range, and the break of this range could bring prices back to test the area, this cloud area here, which then corresponds to the area of 1 minimum and today's VIX. Let's also take a look at euro, dollar, and dollar yen, which we have now included in this daily appointment. Yesterday, well, the euro lost a little bit as a consequence of the strengthening, well, of everything we mentioned, and it led to, well, prices touching 110. Well, it made a low at 111.98. Now, violating this double bottom, well, even if just slightly, then it re-entered. So the re-entry into this area could lead to a test of all the of these lows here, from which I think this is an area that will certainly be defended by the sellers. So let's monitor 112.70, 112.80, an area in short that could easily be a shorting area. On the upside, frankly, from this level, there could be a new test of today's HV, and then, in short, continue upwards. I know you don't have these levels, maybe then, in short, we'll add them in the premium section. Let's see if I can find the time. As for dollar yen, it surged. It broke through. It did exactly what we said yesterday. In short, it made a beautiful test before the VIX levels. It came back. It stayed a little in the VIX 1D max area, only to then surge upwards with a nice breakout. The price reached 146 beautifully. Then it made, last night it made this double top. In short, in correspondence with the close, it broke the pivot at 145. Now it's pulling back a little. It will probably return to test this area here of 144.70, 144.95, and then maybe stabilize above to possibly, in short, consider attacking these areas here of 147 on the downside. So let's monitor this area here. Perfect. With this, we have reached the end of this morning briefing, which even today went on a bit long, but there are many things to say. As always, I remind you that today is Friday. As we mentioned at the beginning, pay maximum attention. We'll catch up later in the chat. Thank you all for your attention.